Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to Brewing with Magic. Well, today we are going to be doing something a little different, and we are going to talk about what me and Will think are the top 10 cards in Strixhaven as of just under 1 week in. So let's first off say hello to Will.
Hey everybody.
Okay, and before we get into that, I do want to remind you, when we hit 500 subscribers, we're going to be doing something very, very special, including a whole bunch of giveaways. If you want to find out all that information, please check out down below, rate, review, and smash that subscribe button. If you're already a subscriber, me and Will both really appreciate you being part of the Brew Crew. Would you please also check down below, join us on Twitter, share this on social media, and consider being a Patreon. So, you ready to get into it, Will?
Yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
Okay, well, let's get into it. So the way we did that is we both made our own top 10 lists, but we didn't tell each other what we were putting on it. Then we brought all the cards together. There were 6 cards that were identical on both lists. Then we chose which 4 to fill in to make the top 10, and then we rated them 1 through 10. So we're going to start with number 10 and then go to what we think is the best card in the set. So the first one we have for you is Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Why don't you go ahead and tell us why that's number 10, and then I'll tell you what I'm thinking.
Yeah, honestly, I like this card. I mean, most of the cards that we have in this top 10, a lot of them are build-arounds, but for the most part, how explosive they can be. And Tasha's Hideous Laughter really stuck out to me. It made it into the top 10 because of how explosive this card can really turn the game. You could literally be losing and then play Tasha's Hideous Laughter and immediately win. It's one of those cards that really does a lot of work, especially in the build-arounds that you work with it. So if you're building like a rogue deck, where you're milling out and then using Tasha's Hideous Laughter as part of it, it's really explosive. Or if you're just building just a mill deck in general, and you're maybe like a control mill deck where you're just trying to take over and go that route. I don't know, I just really love seeing this card in action. I've lost to it, I've won with it, and it's, to me, one of those cards that can just get you out of nowhere.
I completely agree. So I do want to mention that we do have a video out on this. We put it out maybe a day or two ago. I can't remember. So make sure you check out that video. But I do want to agree with Will 100%. This is a build-around card. And the reason I say that is before you craft this particular card, do make sure that you're going to be playing that deck for a while, because it's not going to go in a whole lot of shells. But if you are a person who likes mill, or rogues especially, I think it goes great with rogues right now, then this is a safe card to go ahead and craft, in my opinion. Don't you agree?
Yeah, this definitely, if you are building anything with a mill mechanic in it, this is a must build include.
Got it. So next on the list is number 9, and this is going to be another one that's pretty much you got to kind of build around it, or it doesn't do much, but if you build around it, it gets bonkers. So that is Zorn. So just to refresh everybody, this gives you an additional treasure token anytime you create a treasure token. So if you're doing anything with treasures, this is just going to give you a lot of value, especially if you say, I don't know, a Goldspan Dragon on the board. So why did you like this at number 9?
Yeah, I just, again, if this card sticks, it definitely helps out ramp the rest of your deck and do what it needs to do. So if you have like lower end creatures that either ETB, create a treasure, or attack, create a treasure, then now you're creating 2. So you're ramping twice as fast. Or if you get up to like, bigger creatures like Old Gnawbone, and you're able to like hit, and now you're creating that extra treasure across the board. And then using him with other mechanics to really like take advantage of either like, shooting people in the face, or like, dropping multiple creatures, or, trying to get extra value. So I think Zorn is kind of like a hidden gem where people might not really target him immediately and want to get maybe something else that's on the board, but don't realize that Zorn is actually more powerful than they think.
Okay. So next we have number 8, which we actually put out a few days ago, a build around this card, so make sure you check out that video. And I think this card, you could build around it, but I think this is actually going to be good in a few different kind of decks, because it could go in a control deck, close people out real quick, and that's Westgate Regent. It's 2 black, 3 colors, flying, 4/4, ward, discard a card, and it's just super strong because every time it deals combat damage to the player, it doubles. So it's a 4/4, an 8/8, a 16/16, and then your opponent shouldn't be alive anymore, but it could go more and more. So what are you thinking about this card?
Yeah, I think this is definitely a sneaky card. I'm not seeing a lot of people playing it, probably to its best capacity. I think the deck that we made here on the channel definitely tries to 100% zone in on Westgate Regent's ward ability. So if you're playing like a hand disruption deck, or like, just like you were saying, a control deck that kind of like really minimizes the ability for them to even, target Westgate Regent, then he's a sneaky card, and people are not ready for him. And a flying 4/4, I mean, the flying part alone makes him strong. And then when you start adding those counters, just like you said, he can literally sneak over and win the game instantly by himself. So he is a really awesome card. So if you're building around a discard shell or a control shell, I think he's a good include.
Yeah, the nice thing is if you have a deck with counter spells to protect it and you got some removals, you only really need to get Westgate Regent on the board, because you need the removal to just get rid of anything that has reach or also has flying so it gets in, counter spells to make sure you can protect it, and I'll tell you what, you're going to win most races with anything they have on the ground coming in at you because of how hard this hits as quick as it does.
Yeah.
So next on the list at number 7 is Cry Goblin. 1 red, 1 colorless for a Goblin 2/2. You can pay 1 red, 1 colorless, and you can do this multiple times. Goblins you control get +1/+0 and gain haste till end of turn. And then it has a really neat pack tactics. Whenever Cry Goblin attacks, if you attacked with creatures of total power 6 or greater this combat, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that is tapped and attacking. So, in my opinion, this enabled goblins to become an archetype. If you haven't seen it yet, you are going to. Multiple people in Mythic in the top 1200 with this deck. The pack tactics can get out of control because there's so many different lords out there for this. It's a really, really fun card, and pumping it multiple times catches your opponent off guard. So what do you think about this at number 7?
Yeah, this card, especially in standard, made goblins more viable. You have like spells that create 1/1 goblins. You have the lore that's that just came out in Dungeons and Dragons as well. But being able to use that mana as a sink is what makes this card, like, to me, the more valuable than the Lord. The Lord's great. Don't get me wrong. I think maybe in the top 15, but definitely in the top 10. Why Cry Goblin is so important in that Goblin deck is because he helps guide your goblins even faster, get them into the battle, but then now using your mana as a mana sink, pumping them even harder. So then now when he does swing and he makes that 1/1, it's a 3/3 or a 4/4 if you have lords on the battlefield and stuff like that. So to me, he's a must include into your goblin decks in standard to really get the full benefit around that build around.
It's the first non-rare, non-legendary card that we are putting on the list. There's only 2, this and one other, which we'll get to in a bit, but don't think just because it's an uncommon, this is an extremely powerful card. So next at number 6, we have Grandmaster of Flowers. I'm almost positive you know this one. 2 white, 2 colorless. It's a 3 loyalty legendary planeswalker, Bahamut. Now, here's a really, really big reason why this card is so big. As long as Grandmaster of Flowers has 7 or more loyalty counters on him, he is a 7/7 dragon god creature with flying and indestructible. So if they don't have a way to get rid of this by exiling it or something like that, I mean, they are in trouble. You can +1 it to basically make an opponent's creature just useless, and then you can also +1 it to go get the Monk of the Open Hand if you want to go that route and do some tricks. It's a really strong card. Why do we have that at number 6?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's underutilized in a lot of decks right now. I don't think a lot of people are seeing the explosiveness of Grandmaster. I've seen it, in some of the gameplay that, I've seen you play or I've played. And the thing that I don't think people understand is just that how fast he actually does get to 7. Most people are like, oh, 7 is going to take forever. But the crazy part, it really doesn't. Because once he's on the board, and most often or not, you have those white drops early that are already mucking up the board enough. But then getting the open hand over and over again, either from your graveyard or from your library, kind of continuously makes a blocker. But the +1 that takes away their ability, to me, that's just great, because now working alongside with the rest of your creatures, you're really locking down that board, and then all of a sudden this guy comes out of nowhere. I just really think the Grandmaster is underutilized in a lot of decks right now.
And I 100% agree. Now, granted, the way it reads is if they have first strike, double strike, or vigilance, that target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. So there are cases where it won't work. But for the most part, every time I've gone against this card, it is a lot harder to get around that +1 ability and start knocking Grandmaster of Flowers down than you think. And like Will was saying, I think it's a trap that it seems slow, because on turn 4, it actually goes to 4 loyalty because you get to plus at that turn, right? Then on turn 5, 6, 7, you'll be like 3 more turns. But that turn, it doesn't have summoning sickness. It's coming in right now. And your opponent forgets that too, I think, sometimes. And it has caught my opponents off guard. And if you're playing it with a card that we're going to be talking about later on on this list, you're going to be hitting a whole lot more than 7 with this card.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, at number 5, we have Limerith Desert Doom. 2 blue, 3 colorless, legendary creature dragon. It is a 5/5 flyer. And it has ward 4 as long as it is untapped. That is really difficult to deal with. Then whenever Limerith deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Then if you have fewer than 3 cards in your hand, draw cards equal to the difference. I mean, this is a super hard creature for your opponent to get off the board unless they're just board wiping it, and it's giving you card advantage. It's a 5/5 flyer. It might be a mythic, but it definitely is worth crafting a few if you're going to be playing in this style deck. What do you think about this at 5?
Yeah, this is probably its own win con. Like, you literally can build around this dragon, and I've already seen it. If you're really good at building control decks, or if you like control decks, he is the game winner for you. And getting him on the board initially is the biggest, what you have to do. And if you're able to get him on turn 5, well, again, they have to, ward him to get even at him. So not only on their turn 6, they have to pay 4, but then whatever else to kill it. So most likely they're not going to be able to kill it on turn 5, on their turn 5. And then the other thing too is when it untaps, like the lands untap, you now have all your control cards. So now this thing can just go in willy-nilly and start hitting you for 5 and start drawing cards if you're, short-handed. If not, then you're holding up your control spells. And
you're at least
cool
drawing one card.
At
least drawing one card too.
Yeah, at least minimum. But the cool part is with like Foretell, you're putting some of your Foretell cards that are to the side. So now you're emptying out your hand on purpose to draw 3 maybe. And I've already seen it, and it's definitely a really awesome card, and that's why it's in the upper echelon of this top 10.
Okay, at number 4, and the card that I was talking about that goes very well with Grandmaster of Flowers, we have Paladin class. 1 white, spells your opponent cast during your turn cost 1 more to cast. Not a bad little ability there. And then you can level it up to level 2 with 1 white, 2 colors. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Super strong already. And then the level 3 for 1 white and 4 colorless. This is a game closer if you have mana to sink, especially if Grandmaster of Flowers is a indestructible 7/7 flying creature at the moment, and you have any number of other at least one other creature. Then whenever you attack, until end of turn, target attacking creature gets +1/+1 for each other attacking creature and gains double strike. So I guess it can actually just attack alone because it's still getting the double strike if you choose it. So it's hitting for 14 that turn, and you're just closing out the game. Why is it at number 4 for you?
Yeah, honestly, we went back and forth between like Paladin class and Cleric class, like, kind of being in this top 4. But Paladin class is more across the board in white. Where Cleric class is
less
very
build
specific.
around in a creature deck.
Yes,
they both go in creature decks, but this one is less build around, and ultimately.
Yes, and that's why with Paladin class, it's like, I mean, think about it. You can go, Orzhov, Naya, anything that touches white, you can play Paladin class. And the cool part is any strategy where you have like a go wide strategy, this card, I mean, you're finishing games. If you can get to level 2, you're already giving all of your 1/1s a +1/+1. So now they're all 2/2s. So that alone is enough to deter or like really overtake your opponent. But again, if you get to that, I'm able to mana sink my 5 mana into it, and you're swinging with 6 creatures, I mean, it's a game changer. And that's where I've seen this one just win by itself.
I've won quite a few games off that level 3 with this card in multiple different decks so far. That level 3 can catch people off guard quick.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you have to have 4 in your deck, but 1 or 2, I mean, it just makes a difference. And that's what I'm saying, especially if you're playing creature heavy decks. This card alone really does make a big difference in those.
Yeah, and just the fact that you can throw it on turn 1 and it either helps you or it doesn't. It's on the board, and if you don't have good turn 1s in your deck anyways, this fills the slot. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, number 3 and number 2, we have 2 extremely powerful green cards that just made green super, super hard to beat right now, at least at this point of the meta. So the first one at number 3 is Werewolf Pack Leader, 2 green. You've probably seen it. I'm going to read it anyways. Creature, human, werewolf. It's a 3/3. Pack tactics, so whenever you attack with 6 or greater power, draw a card. Are you kidding me? Yes, it happens more often than you'd think. And then for 1 green, 3 colorless, until end of turn, Werewolf Pack Leader has base, power, and toughness 5/3, gains trample, and isn't a human. I don't even think I really need to say why this is super strong. Why is this a 3 for you on the list?
I mean, this is in green. This is a strong card. I mean, a 2 for a 3/3 already strong in itself, but having the ability to draw cards with it, already being able to kind of like smash into your opponent. Now, if you're adding like fight spells to it, any kind of pump spells to it, it's more dangerous than any other card in green at that cost, and that's what makes it so crazy. I would say it's usually a quick auto remove. If anyone goes against it, that's probably one of the cards you want to kill immediately, because if that stays on the board, it's definitely wrecking your opponent. But then going with other decks, like Stomp decks or Naya decks or anything along those lines, what makes it crazy is just that it filters into that slot. So, turn 1, you're dropping a green, turn 2, you're dropping Wolfpack Leader. So, like, no matter what, you're getting that Wolfpack Leader. And being able to draw a card, just like, we were saying earlier, that power 6 is super fast. And that's what makes this card like, so good in green, because green needs draw value. So, to have a creature that's dealing damage and drawing you cards, that's just an added bonus. So, this card's super strong.
I agree. And so basically, throughout the history of Magic, as long as I've been playing, mono green has always been pretty strong. Green splashing a color has always been pretty strong, but it's always been at its strongest, in my opinion, when it has a 3/3 for 2 green mana, and they've come out many a times throughout, and it's always a super powerful card. And Werewolf Pack Leader is no different, and that's the reason. I mean, you go turn 2, 3/3 for 2 mana, and then go into a 4/4 for 3 green mana. Other than those pesky Luminarch aspirants that are running around, there's not a whole lot of creatures that can keep up power toughness wise for the amount of mana you're spending for a creature like this. So if you're going to play green or splash at all, craft 4 of these immediately.
Yeah,
just craft them all. It's not going to be a regret. There's no way people stop playing that card unless the next set has an extremely crazy 3/3 for 2 coming up, which reminds me, Innistrad is a werewolf set coming out next, and this is a werewolf, so synergies. I think we already have synergies coming. So number 2 on the list is another green card. Like I said, it is Ranger class, and this is not only number 2 on our list, but it is the best class card in the game, in my opinion. Most likely Will's too, since we agreed at number 2. 1 green, 1 colorless. When Ranger class enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 wolf creature token. You already get a 2/2 for 2. Value's there. We don't even need to talk about the rest of the card. It already fits, but the rest of the card gets gross, because level 2 also only costs 1 green, 1 colorless. So whenever you attack put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. Your creatures are already big. We've already talked about Werewolf Pack Leader for 2 green for a 3/3. Then you got Old Growth Troll. It's a 3-drop for a 4/4. So you're already bigger than the opponent. And now every time you attack, you're getting a little bigger. And then level 3, in my opinion, is okay for late game if you're running out of cards, but it's not the biggest part of the card. Pay 1 green, 3 colors. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. That has always been a very powerful ability, but, it's just a little bit of the, cherry on top, if you will, of the card, in my opinion. So what do you like about this at number 2?
Yeah, this is probably one of the strongest classes that we've seen. Actually, honestly, enchantment right now that we've seen that really helps escalate decks.
Yes.
You can put this in anything that splashes green, and that's what makes it great. So, like if you want to go a wide mechanic, if you're just going mono green, it's just an amazing card, because getting that 2/2 right off the bat, so you already can start defending yourself. But then when you're able to pump it and start putting +1/+1 counters on your attacking creatures, and if you can abuse that, with other creatures or other types of things that help to abuse that, or if you get 2 ranger classes on the board, I mean, it gets gross. And now your opponents, like, they're dealing with so much stress, and you're just coming at them and pumping your creatures over and over and over again. I think once this is down, if they can't remove this card, it is going to be very difficult for them to really get past a lot of your creatures.
Yeah, and the Paladin class doesn't hurt to stack. A few of the other classes doesn't hurt to stack, but this one, Ranger class, another craft 4. There's no reason to not have 4 of this in a deck if you're running a creature-based deck, because of the fact that it's 2 for a 2/2 already, and then level 2 can stack. You have 3 of them on the battlefield, and you attack with one creature, that creature just gets +3/+3. Like it gets out of control super fast. I can't say enough how much I think that is an amazing green card. So last on the list, coming in at number 1, and it's funny because not only is it a common, but we both put it at number 1 on our lists without the other person knowing. So it was a solid, easy number 1 slot, and that is Shambling Ghast. Who would have saw it? You know, underdog, comes out of nowhere, wins the whole thing. It's 1 black mana for a 1/1 creature zombie, and when Shambling Ghast dies, choose 1. Either target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 till on a turn, or create a treasure token. It doesn't sound like a lot, but for a 1-drop, 1/1 creature, you're either ramping 1 turn, or you're killing their pesky whatever that's on the board that you don't want to have to deal with. I don't know how much I could say about this without rambling. You tell them why it's number 1.
I didn't realize how strong this card was until
and I said it before
the set.
I said it before the set launched that this is one of my favorites too. And it's
and I didn't honestly like see it as one of the stronger cards because you know there's just so many cool cards that they were coming out with, and I'm like, oh, I gotta play this, gotta play that. But in black, this is like the card you have to craft. You have to put this in all your black decks. You just have to.
I know it's going to suck spending 4 common wild cards, but definitely do it.
I mean, because it fulfills so much. I mean, it gives you a blocker. It's an auto remove for smaller creatures, or if you're blocking a 2/2, you still can kill it. But it ramps you. And to me, the ramp is what's so important, especially in Magic. Like, if you can get ahead in mana, and you can start casting your spells before your opponents can get what they need on board, you're already winning that game. They now have to play catch up where you're getting ahead. So that's why Shambling Ghast, being a common, blew my mind. But I've seen it in so many decks, and I've seen how explosive this card makes other decks and what it can do to be proactive or reactive, depending on what scenario you're facing. That just makes it so versatile. So that's why this card is number 1 in my opinion, just because it's so versatile and how you can use it, the least amount of cost, and you know, wild cards for this, it doesn't matter. So I like this card. I think it's amazing. To me, this is definitely a number 1.
Yeah, and it is a newer card, so, you know, one of the things that I'm getting a lot of is my opponent blocking it, not realizing 100% what it does. But even when that changes, I still think it's going to be solid because it still causes people... It's one of those creatures that, for one, makes your opponent act real weird. Kind of like if it was a 1/1 Death Touch. They don't want to block it, or if they, you know, if they go turn 2 Luminarch Aspirant, and then they pump it, they're gonna have to pump that before they to come in at you, or if they pump another creature, now they can't come in with that, and it just starts to mind game your opponent. So it's just little things like that make it number 1 for me. The mana ramp, like you said, you go turn 1 Shambling Ghast, and a turn 2 you attack with it or hold it back to block whatever it might be, and then before end of turn you hold up your mana, you play the new 1 black 1 colorless, sacrifice a creature and create a treasure token. Now you're creating 2 treasure tokens. On turn 3 you have 5 mana available now, the 3 that you have in play plus the 2 treasure token. I mean, there is a lot of stuff you can do with this and get a lot of value, and I think it's an absolute amazing card. So I'm glad we both agreed on that at number 1.
100%.
It was just too easy for us over here. Now, all of these ratings might change. We're just saying right now, as what we're seeing, we think these are all pretty safe to craft. The ones we explained were build-arounds. Make sure that we do have a couple of more cards, things we want to talk about in this video, though. First off, we want to talk about 2 cards that we think are absolute do not crafts. As of right now, 100% do not craft. The first one is going to be real easy, and that's the Trask. At 3 green, 6 colorless for a legendary creature dinosaur, that's a 10/10 that has ward 10, and then whenever Trask attacks, it fights target creature defending player controls. If they only have 1 creature on the board, then cool, yeah, you get through because you fight first. If they have 2, they can just chump block it. They can make you exile cards, you know, like Soul Shatter. They can just board wipe. It's a lot of mana for something that just doesn't do a whole lot, and that's why this is one of our 2 do not crafts. Why do you... Same thing, I think, right?
Yeah, well, the thing that got me with it is if they were going to make this into a mythic card, which they did, it should have trample. Plain and simple. You know,
Ward 10 is cute, but that's just it. It's cute.
Yeah, because if it had trample, then I'd say it's worth it. just due to the fact that yeah, you can try to ramp up to it, get a 10 on the board.
Yep.
You know, it's got ward 10 as long as you've casted it, and has haste. But I have a 1/1 with Death Touch that can just basically kill this thing, or you can counterspell it and it's just gone. So I just wasted 9 mana to cast this for no reason and used 2 mana to stop me. So that's why this card, I don't know. I was already saddened by it when I saw it in the pre-release, and then during gameplay, I mean, I don't see anybody.
This
It's
is a
just,
major creature in D&D, right? So as
Yeah,
far as
yeah.
flavor goes, they really dropped the ball on this one.
yeah, it's a bummer.
Okay. And then the last do not craft card that we're going to talk about, and I'm not going to read it because if you don't know what it does, good for you. And if you do know what it does, you're going to be like, but wait, it's such a good deck. That is the Book of Exalted Deeds. And let me tell you why. First off, there is so much uproar in the community that I'm almost positive this card's going to get banned, so I think you're going to be wasting wild cards. Secondly, it's a try-hard. I mean, it's not fun magic for you.
Yeah.
It's not fun magic for them. Being able to just put this token on the Faceless Haven, they can't win the game, you can't lose the game, and every deck I've ever seen with this card as their win con, pretty much the opponent just steamrolls them at a certain point because of how the deck is built. And your opponent has all these creatures. You're sitting there with the Book of Exalted Deed token on your Faceless Haven at negative 20,000 life, and you're just waiting for your opponent to either mill themselves out or quit. And it's just the least amount of fun in Magic. Now, we have a few ways to combat it until they do that, but before I explain that, why do you hate it so much?
Yeah, and usually I'm not negative about cards.
We're just
to the
not
fact
here.
of like that. I just don't.
Yeah,
you know,
we
I
try
just-
to
I
stay
just
really
don't
positive.
I really do. I mean, when I first saw this card, I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." It's
Oh,
like
well, how
auto-include
fun.
in life game decks. I can make some angels. You know, it's really cool. And then maybe put this counter on an angel, and they have to kill the angel for that to happen. I'll make it indestructible. And then
Like
once they
Faceless
kind
Haven.
of once they broke the meta with Faceless Haven, and was like, hey, you know, you put it on here, and then when it becomes not a creature, it still has a counter on it. So now you're just don't ever have to activate the Faceless Haven again. And I'm sitting here going, wow, that really makes Magic suck. And for using that card specifically. And
It's just
I'm like,
not fun. It's just not
and
fun.
so to me, I like enjoying, you know, playing people, seeing their ideas, watching the concept go. So once they announced it and you know what it can do, okay, great, we're good. Now we know. But it'd be more fun to see how this would work more in a deck that was centric with the top ability, trying to use the second ability with a creature and actually fulfill its need versus kind of, you know, no, like you said, try hard for nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the part that bums me out about this.
So don't get me wrong. If you can, if they don't wait until they have enough mana to do everything in one turn, if you can interact with the artifact and get rid of it, you're okay. If when they activate the Faceless Haven, you're okay. But if they sneak in and get it, and it happens way too often, then there are a few cards that you can use to actually, you know, still win the game. So the first one, if you're in black, you can play Lithiform Blight. And once it's on the Faceless Haven, you can put this on afterwards. Enchanted Land loses all land types and abilities. That is an ability on the card, just like if you put a Death Touch token on it or something like that. That shuts it down. You have Thorn, Mantle, Striker, which is 1 black 4-color elf rogue. It's a 4/3. And when it comes into play, you can choose 2 things. The first one doesn't matter for this, but the other one, remove X counters from target permanent, where X is the number of elves you control. When this enters the battlefield, it's a rogue, so you can remove 1 counter and get rid of that pesky token. And then lastly is land destruction in red, with things like Cleansing Wildfire or Smashing Success. So if you're running into a lot of that, unfortunately, you're going to need to be either in black, red, or splash and play one of those cards. Otherwise, just concede.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Just
you know,
concede.
if you want to go the cheaper route, Lithiform Blight is cheaper in black. It's like easier
And you
to
draw
do.
a card.
Plus on top of that, plus on top of that, it lets you draw a card. And then also what's really cool about Lithiform Blight right now in black is all of the creature lands. You're basically just turning those creature lands not into creatures anymore. They become colorless, and they can pay 1 to make any color, but you're actually just cutting them completely out. But yeah, I agree. You know, the
Just
rest of the
not fun
cards
Magic.
are the only other ways to remove any of this stuff. So I mean, like, it's funny that, you know, we have to work around this in the meta right now just because of how garbagey using that mechanic is.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a very quick ban on the book, because Faceless Haven is not the problem, and Faceless Haven is amazing in the meta. The Book of Exalted Deed is just not fun Magic, and unfortunately that's the problem. So speaking of creature lands, we have 2 more things we want to talk about before we wrap up the video. The first one is creature lands. For me, I thought they were going to be really fun. They end up being too expensive in my opinion. I like the blue one, and maybe only two of it. And in a very control-y deck, I've been beaten up by a couple of people who played very, very good control decks, and that was their win con. And it just smacks you so hard, and it's hard to kill because of that ward. Other than that, the rest, I've experimented with the red one. I've experimented with the green one. You know, they're okay, but I'm right now saying don't craft any creature lands, in my opinion. Do you disagree? Do you agree?
Yeah, you know, the creature lands, for the most part, if you're trying to win off of them, that's the only value you're going to get. Like, but that means you're building a deck 100% around trying to win with your creature lands. And then yes, that's when you're crafting them. But if you're putting them into like, I hope I get this, and this kind of gets me out of something, and if I have no mana, I'm going to pump it into this, and I'm going to do that. I feel with way the meta is right now, Faceless Haven is still stronger, in my opinion.
Very much so.
The creature lands in general, like just the price of them, the white one just too expensive. You know, the green one's good if you're going that route, but again, it's expensive.
And late
and
game,
then
you're not really doing anything except for late. It's like
except
a Hail Mary.
A creature. That's
it was just a Hail Mary for me, you know, like
100%, and that's all it is. The red one, like I'm hoping to make that goblin. But again, in red right now, I feel like you're winning so many other ways. I feel like if you're trying to win off the land, then what are you really playing in red? And right. The black one, again, if you're playing like a control deck, maybe Dimir or something like along those lines, it's possible, you know, one or two of, I get it, but it's not as strong as I thought it would be in comparison to out of the past. So yeah, I agree. I just feel like it's definitely not. If I had to craft them, I wouldn't. But if it fulfilled a deck need, then maybe. That's about it.
And if the meta slows down a little, then maybe they'll be good. But right now, the meta is creature, and turn them sideways to your face. Yeah. Everybody's aggressive. And it's not like just bad rush decks. These are all very good rush decks, but mid-range is a little bit light right now. Control is pretty light. So I just don't see them personally being super craftable at the moment. So, and then lastly, we want to talk about die rolling versus like dungeons. The dungeon mechanic definitely seems like there is potential. I have been absolutely wrecked by some dungeon decks, so definitely keep having fun with that. But in our opinion, die roll decks, there might be one out there that you can manipulate where you use this roll 2 dice, choose the best dice, this or that. But even in that circumstance, it's RNG. And I don't want a deck to win really big if I roll high and then can't win if I roll low. It's just, that's the reason I quit playing Hearthstone. Too much RNG. And that's the reason Magic has always been the best game in the world, in my opinion. Had Magic had this kind of game at the time, I would have never even started Hearthstone, but we definitely don't want to go down that route. And that's just my take. We tried the die rolling mechanic. We've tried and tried and tried. I will end up putting something out for content, but I don't know.
Yeah, the die roll, I was wishing it would be stronger. You know, of course, there's like, you know, infinite combos going around with like red and blue, where you can make like, you know, infinite flying, you know, 1/3s, but again, you have to get the combination going, and you have to be able to keep them on the board to survive. And if you can't, then you're not doing anything. You're just not doing as much. And then there are like, you know, the blink mechanics where like, you know, there's one creature that if you die roll, you make them sacrifice 1 or 2 permanents, and then you can blink it and keep doing it at the end of every end step. But again, creature has to live. You have to have the second card to blink. And with the meta the way it is right now, to get all of those things in place and survive, and it's just too much. Yeah. And that, to me, that's why like die rolling, I wish it was better. You know, but again, you're taking a chance to hope that you get something, whereas in the dungeon mechanic, you're choosing the path you want, you're making it work for you, and you know the route you need to go to.
And the creatures are just better. The dungeon creatures are really good. And I think that like there's an Orzhov, I mean, people are gonna break it. I think dungeons are gonna be better than we think, even though it is just kind of a one-off. So
yeah. And that's why I was very much, we were going back and forth on this, and we just wanted to just let you guys know, you know, as we've been seeing so many more decks and seeing so many people play, you know, again, for funsies, die rolling decks is fun. If you just want to play fun decks and just see what's out there and go on the play and do that, for, you know, trying to go up the tier, Dungeon decks are just stronger at this point for now.
Okay, well, that is going to do it for all of our talking points. Let us know down in the comments below if you really like these kind of videos, because we do kind of plan on doing what we're going to call, I don't know, something like Brew Crew Talk or something like that once a week, where me and Will sit down together and record an episode like this where we're talking about maybe a specific card that's a breakout, maybe what's the new top deck in Mythic, what's winning tournaments, the state of the game, anything Magic related that we think might be an interesting topic. We're going to start doing that once a week, and we want to know your opinion down below in the comments. And feel free to shoot us a topic that you would like us to talk about. We would definitely love to hear that too. So before I sign off, Will, do you have anything else to say to the ladies and gentlemen?
I just want to say thanks to all of our subscribers. Thank you for those who might want to subscribe and you just haven't clicked the button yet. This is your time to do it. And we have a lot of really cool, fun things coming up. And we try to be fresh. We try to have fun with our decks. And hopefully it's entertaining for you guys. And we'd love to have you subscribe if you're not a subscriber so far.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Please don't forget to check the description down below for all the fun stuff we're doing. And as always, until next time, have a blast in the arena.